Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. It is a true pleasure to welcome you in this webinar on creative tourism as a vector for sustainable development in the Caribbean. I'm Caroline Couret, the founder of the Creative Tourism Network, a non-for-profit organization established in 2010 in order to accompany destinations of all kinds around the world that are embracing creative tourism, not only to meet this new and evolving demand of the new travelers, but also to create new ecosystems in all kinds of territories, relying on these new forms of traveling. By creative tourism, I think it's a little bit important to fix what we mean. We actually refer to the co-creation of hands-on, sustainable, and authentic experiences that have the merit to highlight the local intangible heritage and know-how, and by this way to create new kinds of relationships between the residents and the travelers. And at the same time, what we're going to see in this webinar, it's all the assets that this can bring to the territories we are developing on. This approach, by the way, generates new models of governance by involving the communities, be they citizens, be they artists, craftsmen, small entrepreneurs, who are working hand in hand with was until now the more conventional tourism industry sector. So this not only empowers the local actors, but also redefines the relationship and rehumanize this tourism, bringing it not no longer as an issue, but as maybe the solution to many of the new challenges we have to face in this new paradigm. So in this sense, the Caribbean offers a fascinating opportunity to reorient its tourism toward a more sustainable and inclusive future. On that highlights its rich cultural diversity, its all the diversity of the intangible heritage, of course, and it at the same time develops resilience tools to address these global challenges. One of them, of course, is climate change. So actually, these efforts are beautifully reflected in the Transculture program, which is a comprehensive program that is led by UNESCO Regional Office in Havana with the support of the European Union, with which the Creative Tourism Network had the privilege to collaborate with. We actually, well, I could say that the Transcultural program is a very huge project that will have all the details in this session. But we really collaborated for the part of the creative tourism training and mentoring in order to accompany precisely all these local stakeholders, be they artists, be they local entrepreneurs, towards the creation of precisely these hands-on and sustainable experiences I was mentioning just after a moment. So this session today is designed as a space of exchanging insights and best practices from projects across the Caribbean that have positioned creative tourism as a driver for sustainable development. Our speakers will reflect on the challenges and opportunities these initiatives have generated. MONDIACULT's values are precisely reflected in all the projects we're going to present today in this session. And we're going to see how we can offer transferable advice aligned with all these pillars that will be presented within these big events to be held in Barcelona next week. So it is my honor to introduce our distinguished panel of speakers, key actors in this transformative journey. First, Ms. Mrs. Anne Lemestre, who is the director of the UNESCO Regional Office in La Habana, and the representative for Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and Venezuela. We will also have the honor to welcome Mr. Narendra Rangalam, Deputy Director of Sustainable Tourism in the Caribbean Tourism Organization. I will also welcome Mr. Adrian Gonzalez, Transcultura Program Coordinator at the UNESCO Regional Office in Havana. and Mr. Kenneth Chidwell, a sustainable tourism consultant in Guyana. So let us reflect together on how creative tourism can serve as a pillar of cultural sustainability, climate resilience, and the achievement of the United Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you all for being here, and let's begin with this inspiring exchange. So it is now my distinct honor to invite Mrs. Anne Lemest to take the floor. Mrs. Lemest has been a steadfast advocate for cultural sustainability and the safeguarding of intangible heritage. Her leadership has been instrumental in fostering inclusive development models that place culture in the arts of the resilience and innovation. Thank you very much. Today we share her reflection on the role of creative tourism. Mrs. Lemest, the floor is yours.
It's a great pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Creative Tourism, a Sustainable Driver for Public Policy and Economic Impact. This event is part of the lead-up to MONDIACULT 2025, UNESCO's Global Conference on Culture, which will soon bring together ministers of culture from around the world in Barcelona to advance a shared roadmap that positions culture as a global public good and, of course, a driver of sustainable development. We are delighted to join this initiative led by the Creative Tourism Network, with whom we have been collaborating to promote sustainable tourism in the Caribbean. I extend my sincere thanks to its director, Caroline Couret, for this excellent partnership we had in the Caribbean. I would like also to thank Narendra Ramgoolam, the representative of the Caribbean Tourism Organization that has been a steadfast ally with us in the program Transcultura. Why talk about the creative tourism ahead of MONDIACULT? Let me share a recent example from our region that many of you may know. The Puerto Rican artist Bad Bunny organized a series of concerts in his homeland, inspired by his latest album, which celebrates and showcases the island's culture. These events attracted over 600,000 tourists and generated more than $7 million in revenue. While this may seem like an exceptional case supported by a powerful industry, there are other compelling examples. For example, I would take the Carnival of Trinidad and Tobago, which then generated over $150 million, representing between 4 to 6% of the country's GDP. The creative economy is, in fact, one of the fastest growing sectors globally. In 2021, UNESCO accounted for 3.1% of global GDP for creative industry. In this context, creative tourism offers an inclusive and sustainable tool for income generation among artists and their communities. According to the UN Tourism Organization, cultural tourism accounts for up to 40% of the international tourism, but it has even more potential. The demand for authentic participatory experiences is growing rapidly, and creative tourism responds to this trend by creating jobs, strengthening local economies, diversifying tourism offering. In regions like the Caribbean, where tourism represents up to 50% of GDP in some countries, creative tourism is key to diversifying beyond the traditional sun, sand, and sea model, and to protecting and promoting the region's rich cultural heritage and cultural diversity also. In order to fully realize this potential, we must invest in specialized training for cultural tourism and tourism professionals, and integrate creative tourism into public policies, national development plans, and also convince the private sector to enter in it. UNESCO has long been developing tools to support member states in this effort. Let me name a few. For example, the UNESCO Toolkit for Sustainable Tourism at World Heritage Sites, which is part of a big program of tourism and world heritage, which includes guidance on developing value-added tourism products based on creative experience that benefit directly to local communities. This resource, for example, is freely available on UNESCO's website, unesco.org. The UNESCO Creative Cities Network, with over 350 cities worldwide, promotes tourism linked to cultural and creative industries as part of urban development strategies. The UNESCO Man and Biosphere, MAB, and the Global Geoparks programs also stand out, connecting natural heritage with living culture and creative experiences. Also, not related directly to tourism, the 2005 Convention on the protection and promotion of the diversity of cultural expressions provides a normative framework to support artists and creators and to strengthen their capacity to generate income, an essential foundation for cultural diversity and creative tourism. In the Caribbean, for example, the Transcultura program, integrating Cuba, the Caribbean, and the European Union through culture and creativity, which has been implemented by the UNESCO office in Havana with the support from the European Union, has actively promoted cultural and creative tourism as part of the value chain of the creative industries. And you will have my colleague, Adrian Gonzalez, who has been the coordinator of the Transcultura program, and he will share with you key results from this program. I once again thank our panelists for being with us today, and Caroline Couret, whose Creative Tourism Network has been a key ally of the Transcultura program. And to all of you joining us today, thank you for being part of this conversation. On the eve of the World Tourism Day and MONDIACULT, I hope this seminar will be an opportunity to share experiences, identify good practices, and move forward together. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Well, I would like to thank very much Mrs. Anne Lemaitre for her kind words that obviously touched me deeply, and also for all the very practical and concrete references on how creative tourism is really aligned with UNESCO's values and pillars, and essentially through practical cases that we're gonna go deeply now with our speakers. So thank you very much to you all. Now, I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Narendra Raghuram. As I said, he is the Deputy Director of Sustainable Tourism at the Caribbean Tourism Organization, who will share with us TTO's approach on creative tourism as a sustainable tool for this new area in tourism of the Caribbean. Mr. Raghuram brings a wealth of experience in shaping tourism policies that prioritize sustainability, community engagement, and long-term resilience. Mr. Raghuram, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you so much to UNESCO and, of course, the Creative Tourism Network for making this happen. Please allow me 1 second just to share my screen. Please let me know if you can see my my PowerPoint.
We can see it perfectly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm going to be talking today a little bit about creative tourism as a sustainable tool for the new era of tourism in the Caribbean. All right. And, I just wanted to start with some historical evidence, in the Vedas, the Indian scripture, and so on. The concept of Tirth Yatra or pilgrimage often included not just visiting holy places, but learning local traditions and practices. So it was in those times, 500 BC, a spiritual and creative exchange. So at that time, the language of creative tourism was within the scriptures, was recorded at that point in time, up to 500 BC. In the Bible, Acts 17:21 notes that in Athens, people and visitors spend their time doing nothing but talking and listening to the latest ideas. And that's early creative tourism in action, people traveling for knowledge, people traveling for creativity, right? So when we talk about creative tourism, we're not only talking about something new, brand new, we're reawakening something ancient, that human urge to travel, not just to see the world, but to shape it together. It's the oldest form of tourism and perhaps the future of tourism itself, and that's where I wanted to start with. Now, in terms of setting the context, creative tourism, sustainable tourism, and the orange economy, they're all interrelated with each other. All right. And I will speak to all of these elements within this particular presentation. Now, why is creative tourism, and this whole emphasis on creative tourism, a sustainable tool for our region? Well, we know the global tourism landscape has shifted, markets has shifted. People are no longer satisfied with just going and seeing something and coming back. They want to experience, they want to immerse themselves, they want to participate. They want to dance to the beat, taste the flavors, and immerse themselves in the stories of the people that they meet. So there's this new concept of experiential tourism now, where people want to immerse themselves. They want experiences, and they're willing to pay between 10 and 15% more for these types of tourism products than other types of tourism products. So it is of a higher value, right? And this is where creative tourism comes in. So unlike the mass tourism, which can be resource heavy, creative tourism is very low impact. It's very people-centered. It relies more on human creativity, just like you defined earlier, Caroline, in terms of the definition for what creative tourism is. And of course, in the Caribbean, we are blessed with an abundance of creativity. Nowhere else in the world you found people who took a steel drum, an empty steel drum, and created a musical instrument out of it. Took discarded shells and created jewelry out of it. Took coconuts and created vessels and carvings and so many, fantastic creative elements out of it. And in Jamaica, for example, and these are some examples I'm sharing in the region. There are much, much more, but due to speaking time constraints, I can only highlight a few. But in Jamaica, you have visitors, they can join in drumming classes and so on in Rastafarian communities. They can take dance classes, etc. at the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts in Dominica in the Kalinago territory. Tourists can learn how to bake cassava bread or weave baskets, experiences that directly benefit local families while safeguarding indigenous traditions. In TNT, Anna mentioned as well the steel pan, and she spoke about the carnival in her opening. Visitors can not only watch a steel pan performance, but they also can take workshops, learn how to play it, learn how to tune the pan. That's a skill as well, and therefore helping to sustain a world-renowned musical tradition that was born out of resilience and ingenuity. And these are not just activities, they are pathways to sustainability. They allow us to keep traditions alive, to empower those small communities and ensure that tourism is not just extractive, but it is regenerative in nature, that is socially, economically, and culturally, and these are some examples here of the cassava bread, learning how to play the steel pan, the Rastafarian community, the drumming and so on, that exist in the Caribbean, and of course, in the Caribbean, what are the main cultural resources we have, and how do we foster creative tourism? Well, in the Caribbean, it is the world's richest cultural mosaic. Our resources are both intangible and tangible. So on the intangible side, we have the iconic events. You have the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival, you have the Barbados crop over, you have John Canoe in the Bahamas. In Guyana, they have Masharama, I think. And of course, you have Spice Mass and so many others. And in terms of our music, the calypso, the soca, the reggae, the dancehall, the zouk, the steel pan, even chutney is also a type of music that's a fusion of Indo and Western beats. Our cuisine, Jamaican church, Bajan flying fish, and cuckoo. In fact, I was invited by CARICOM last week, and I visited Guyana, and they took me to the Amerindian. This is Amerindian month in Guyana, and I tried something called fly in Guyana, and fly is actually a wine made from sweet potatoes. Really fantastic. And of course, but Amerindian month, they had all these Amerindian dishes and so on display. Some which you may love to try, like the pepper pot and so on, and they're very tasty and so on. And then some you need to have a brave heart to try, like the palm worms and so on, the larva and so on that you pick them up and you have to eat them, and usually you eat them raw, or they can roast it for you. So that was quite an experience as well. In Trinidad, you can't come to Trinidad and not try doubles, St. Lucian, cocoa tea, etc. So those are all parts of the fabric, which make up our cuisine. And there are so many others, our oral traditions, we've passed on stories, the Anansi stories that connect generations across the region, they are part and parcel of that intangible culture. And then, of course, on the tangible side, we have those that Anna spoke about, the World Heritage Sites, UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the Man and Biosphere Sites, Brimstone Hill Fortress in St. Kitts, and Nelson's Dockyard, Antigua and Barbuda. You have in Tobago, you have the Tobago Man and Biosphere Reserve. That's a UNESCO site as well, crafts like Haitian metal art. You have Guyanese balata carvings, and Dominican straw weaving and so on. And of course, our rum heritage, and when you're talking rum, you have to every destination in the region has their own uniqueness about their rum and so on, in Guyana, you have the Demerara blends and so on. You also have Mount Gay in Barbados. You have the El Dorado, sorry, in Guyana. Just keep. And in Barbados as well. That's the world's oldest rum distillery, right? Trinidad, you have Angostura and so on. Those are all parts of our heritage, the molasses, the making, the boiling, and so on. And of course, the carnival, the food, the Anansi stories, which make up our tangible and intangible aspects of our culture. So how do we as the CTO foster this type of tourism? Well, through capacity building. We can strengthen training for cultural entrepreneurs, for example, toolkits. We have a lot of toolkits available as well that are embedded in community-based tourism, but they do have elements of creative tourism nestled within those toolkits. And of course, we have a lot of resources available on our website, which could benefit cultural persons in terms of packaging their craft demonstrations into tourist-ready experiences. We also provide and assist with standards and certification through programs like the Hospitality Assured We can include cultural festivals and operators so that events like, for example, Grenada Spice Mass or the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival meet sustainable benchmarks. And sustainability is very, very important, especially that green aspect. If we don't manage and watch our carbon, we will cease to exist, because just a 1.5-degree change in the ocean's surface temperature means 70 to 90% of our warm water corals are going to be gone. And if our warm water corals are gone, most of our human beings, live and they thrive along the coastlines, in terms of fishing, in terms of getting shells from the sea, corals from the sea to make their craft and so on. All of that will be gone. It will be destroyed. So it is extremely, extremely important to pay attention to that aspect of it. True knowledge sharing as well. We've started as well a sustainable tourism and action webinar series. And that already creates a space for sharing, and we could highlight models such as the Carnival in Haiti, which brings together costume making, music, and community storytelling. Even through promotion and branding, we have to go beyond, from sun loss towards sun plus. I've spoken about that before, just going beyond that sun, sea, and sun. Positioning the Caribbean as the world's hub of creativity. When you think about Martinique's culinary trails, Antigua's Sea to Shore Festival, the Trinidad Carnival Institute, it tells a story of mass year round. So in short, CTO has a role to play in helping communities translate their creativity into valuable, high quality, high value, sustainable tourism products. Right? And this is just an example of some of the resources that can be found on our website, in terms of tourism asset inventory. How do you go about, tracking your inventory in terms of culture? We have a diagnostic toolkit as well, right? It assesses market readiness and gaps and so on and priorities, and it tells you, based on your input, how you can go about building it out. We also have an enterprise handbook. We have a consumer research in the US market by Euromonitor, that actually tells you the market intelligence, what people are looking for, what the trends are now. And that's extremely important, because many times destinations they put the cart first and the horse behind. What they do is they try to make something in their destination and then try to push that down the throats of travelers, when ideally it should be looking at what the market wants, matching that with what you have, developing it and pairing them together, and that has been cited as a best practice in annals of tourism research as well as tourism management, right? In terms of market development, we do have a database of CBT profiles in the Caribbean as well that can be tapped into, right? How can carnival-based tourism now, which is the mass tourism type activities, foster sustainability, community resilience, and economic inclusion? So let's now focus on one of our most powerful cultural assets, Carnival, and every country has one in the Caribbean. So Carnival is first of all, when we look at it, in the past, Carnival was very mass-oriented. It's still a mass-oriented activity, but even Disney, if you look at the Disney model in the US, that is also a mass activity, but they've found ways to introduce sustainable aspects to it and make it a very sustainable model. So in Trinidad and Tobago now, mass bands are now experimented with eco-friendly costumes made from recycled materials and biodegradable glitter. In Barbados, Cropover has piloted green initiatives to reduce waste and improve recycling at events. In fact, I was at CariFest a couple of weeks, well, actually it was in August, and they have introduced a lot of green initiatives there as well, in terms of managing those huge events. And now secondly, Carnival strengthens community resilience. After Hurricane Dorian, John Canoe in the Bahamas became more than just a festival. It united, unified people, and it restored cultural pride, and it helped communities heal. After that event in St. Kitts, small village carnivals like the Green Valley Festival reinforce identity and intergenerational bonds, something which I think it's lacking in today's world, but that's a good model as well. And it keeps communities cohesive and resilient. Right? It drives economic inclusion as well. In Trinidad and Tobago, Carnival is an entire industry. It's a whole ripple impact. We heard Anna speak about 5% of the GDP earlier, from just that one activity. But there's a whole ripple effect that goes across as well that is not measured. The seamstresses, the wire benders, the food vendors, the truck drivers, the engineers, the young designers, people who supply the young designers and so on. There's a lot of those that are not captured as well. So it is a huge indirect economic impact as well. In St. Lucia, Carnival and Creole Heritage Month, for example, employ young people in event management. And I always like to see young people involved because, of course, it checks off that succession planning aspect of cultural tourism and creative tourism, right? And of course, it extends beyond just that festival of Carnival. The Carnival Institute, which I spoke of, earlier, it's dedicated to mass and music, and it helps generate year-round income while preserving heritage. Even in the off-season, visitors can explore workshop, exhibitions, performances. You can actually come down to Trinidad even after the carnival season and see the mass bands as they're still tuning their pans, they're rehearsing, and so on. And of course, that keeps Carnival alive 365 days a year. So when we look at Carnival through the lens of sustainability, resilience, and inclusion, we see that it is more than a festival. It's a development tool. Now, challenges will always remain, and the number one challenge, in fact, is limited funding for cultural entrepreneurs. The need for stronger digital platforms to market creative products and the risk of cultural commodification. These will always remain. These will always exist, but there are opportunities to expand training to empower women and youth, right? To integrate climate resilience into event planning. And I saw that in effect at events like Carifesta. Using digital tools to connect the Caribbean creatives to global audiences. And these lessons are, of course, transferable across Latin America and the Caribbean and wider region, showing how culture can drive inclusive and climate-smart development. Creative tourism is not just an add-on to our tourism product, it's an essential pathway to resilience. It's found in the steel pans of Laventille, the spice trails of Grenada, St. Lucia and the Creole kitchens, and of course, John Canoe in Nassau and the Bahamas. It's really what makes us unique. So if we continue to invest in our creativity, empower our communities, and embed sustainability at the heart of cultural tourism, then the Caribbean will not only remain one of the world's most desirable destinations, but also one of the most resilient, inclusive, and innovative ones. And of course, I always like to tie it back to if we really, go in the direction of doing and promoting and managing creative tourism well, there are numerous benefits that can be derived. Cultural preservation, economic growth, community engagement, environmental sustainability, and of course, you can have those authentic visitor experiences, which Caroline spoke of in the opening. So in closing, again, I want to say again, thank you again to UNESCO, the regional office in Havana, as well as Caroline and the Creative Tourism Network for making this possible so that we can share and we can start the discussions and we can start spurring ideas that can help benefit those in not just our part of the world, but of course it can be transferable to other regions. So thank you again so much, Caroline and Adrian and Anna and the entire team. And I now hand back over to Caroline. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Diana Rendra, for this very comprehensive and convincing presentation. Actually, it is so comprehensive that I had some questions, but you already covered them, which I really thank you very much because it was very insightful, very great example that brought us to this wonderful islands of the Caribbean. I would say that we are all convinced. You are convinced as well. My question would be, who else should we convince? So maybe you can answer now or keep it for the conclusion, because I will ask you all about one key takeaway for this. But it is true that we see how important it is to go beyond the paradise postcard of the Caribbean in order to really involve and create this value chain of all the region.
Yeah,
Maybe we
thank you so
can,
much.
yeah,
Thank you so much, Caroline. I think that question, who else can be convinced? I would say
yeah,
one, definitely the political will at the moment, let's try to get the ministers and those who are in authority, to really see the value of it, and once people see the value of it, they will definitely put their backing behind it, as well as those influencers and so on, once we can get people to see the value of it, I mean, the schools, the kids, definitely there's a huge ripple effect that will follow thereafter.
yeah. Actually, my vision and our experience from the Creative Tourism Network is that the bottom-up force is really, for this kind of tourism, at least the one that really works. And precisely, and I would like to thank you again, and then we will pursue this conversation. Diana Randa, thank you very much again.
Thank you.
But
Thank
this
you.
gives me also the transition with this paradigmatic program that is Transculture, that really create this force by gathering all the stakeholders from different levels at the Caribbean, and to open the way, I would say, to this new paradigm for all the region. So for this, I will have the pleasure to welcome Adrian Gonzalez, who is the Transcultural Program Coordinator at UNESCO Regional Havana. Good afternoon, good morning, Adrian, and thank you very much for being here. And of course, I wouldn't like to let you the floor before, first of all, returning Anne Lemaitre compliments to you all and to all your team for the excellent work you did, that really demonstrated how it is important to be not only professionally but also humanly engaged and committed in this kind of projects. And you really demonstrated, like, I think, one of the best projects I've ever seen or collaborated with in our career. So congratulations to you all. And then, so as I said, we'll have your vision of what was maybe the challenges, the opportunity of all this program. But first of all, of course, we want to know further about this very important program that was the holistic sustainable model in the Caribbean. Thank you very much. And Adrian, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Caroline, first of all, because for your invitation to this important event, which bring the attention in the frame of MONDIACULT to this clever area for our region, which is the creative tourism. But first of all, I would like to make a very brief introduction in what is Transcultura, which is one of the UNESCO program funded by the European Union, which is the biggest initiative in culture in Latin America and the Caribbean, which show the importance of this area for both organizations. But the initiative is the biggest not only in terms of financing, but also in the nature of the program itself. For UNESCO office involved with a cross-cultural, cross-sectoral approach, cross-cutting themes abroad, and covering 17 countries in the region, with benefiting more than 2,700 young people in the region, 200 projects supported, and there is a lot of figures to show the impact of the and the relevance of the program in the region. The program was structured around two main pillars. First of them is the professionalization of the cultural and creative sector in the region. And the second one, the creation of opportunities to support the development of entrepreneurship in the cultural and creative industries in the region, but also improving the access to markets for them. And it's in this framework where creative tourism became a transformative tool for the program, not only because it represents a unique opportunity for linking culture and creativity with one of the principal regional markets, which is, of course, the tourism industry, but also because of the powerful impact that the creative tourism can take on communities, host communities, but also visitors. However, during these 5.5 years of implementation of the program, we face some challenges to deal with creative tourism in the Caribbean, and I will name 4 of them, in which my point of view are the most relevant. The first of them, and I have to say that I'm really happy to see they are quite aligned to the challenges that Narendra has identified in his presentation, which show that the program and the regional authorities are aligned in this sense. But coming back to the topic, the first challenge in our point of view is the limited training and capacity building opportunities which are available in the region, which integrate effectively knowledge from the cultural and tourist sector in the way that they give the right tools to creative and the cultural professional to design tourist product more than cultural and creative offer. The second one is an insufficient financial incentive for the CCI professionals in the region. I mean, there is a lack of grants or targeted tax benefits for creative and cultural who wants to present their products in the tourism market. And the third could be the limited policies and regulation in the region. And I want to refer to this challenge in 2 ways. The first of them, I think, is broadly recognized, the lack of national and regional established policies to support the integration and the protection of the cultural and creative professional within the tourism industry, with the tourist operator in the region. But also, I want to refer to the necessity of development of a framework of normative and of standards and regulation that brings to the discussion indicator, standard, certification, and even quality control mechanism that allows to the CCI professionals to integrate it to the market, which is in somehow unknown for them. So because they are professional coming from the culture, they are professional coming from the creativity, and they need to be inserted in a completely new market for them. And lastly, and I think is one of the most important, is the destination level. How we are labeling the destination in a regional, but also in a national scale, because it's not a secret that Caribbean is named because of sun and beach resources. But there is a lack of collaboration, or at least it's very limited, the collaboration today between marketing authorities or national tourism authorities to develop new strategies in terms of present the destination, not only because of based on its natural asset, but also presenting the cultural and creativity resources in a good way. Because in somehow, the world knows Caribbean because of the carnivals sometimes, or maybe because it's a good place to go and film some scenes for the production but there is the basis of the culture of the region should be presented in a very comprehensive way as part of the tourism marketing strategies. In this context, Transcultura tried to find or at least to propose to the region a new model, a transformative model to contribute to start to change this situation. And we have called it Transcultura Transformative Cycle, which is a cycle that brings together 4 main stages, trying to cover in the main steps for the entrepreneurs for cultural and creative entrepreneurs who wants to link their product they offer to the tourism market. The first of them is, of course, training, aligned also to the main challenge we identified. And I have to say, for this initiative, our alliance with the Creative Tourism Organization, but also with the Caribbean, with the Creative Tourism Network and the Caribbean Tourism Organization, was clever, bringing to the program the up-to-date perspective in this topic with also a regional perspective. But the training was conceived, complemented by incubation initiative. So in somehow for the program was important not only provide capacity building, but also provide opportunities to mature the ideas through mentorship schemes, grant schemes that provide at least access to seed funds, to develop the ideas, but also connecting these ideas to the market. For example, with the support of the program, for the first time, the Caribbean present the heritage resources in the world tourist event in Genoa as a region, not by destination, but with a regional stand, with all of the World Heritage sites of the region presented together as a complementary offer. But and it's more, in my point of view, is the most important of the 4th stage, is to track the development of this initiative, to provide sustainability to this initiative in terms of start to build an ecosystem in the region with a very first ideas, very first venture, but in a sustainable way, in terms that this ecosystem start to grow. And I'm really happy that Kenneth is with us today, because in somehow he is part of this starting ecosystem that we hopefully discover in one of our workshop, and it's a way to do that. And from this point, unfortunately, the Transcultura program ended last June after 5.5 years of implementation. And we are right now looking at what is next. So this is just the starting point. To discover that this transformative cycle can work is just the starting point to still working through the next stage. And the next stage, we are clear that have to be built in a regional manner, bringing together regional partners, national authorities, but also the private sector who is interested in support this development for this entrepreneurial sector. And I think this is the main contribution of the Transcultura program, beyond the numbers beyond the amount of participants, beneficiaries, or projects supported. For the region, one of the main contribution after the program is this comprehensive model of how to transform the entrepreneurial ecosystem, the creative and cultural ecosystem in the region, linking it to the tourism industry.
Well, thank you very much, Adrian, and thank you for accepting the challenge to sum up like 5 years of such a very extensive and intensive program, because like I said, when you followed it, you were very impressed to see how they could be able to organize several events on the same days, and not very simple events, but festival, but congresses and training and so on. And the closing in the UNESCO headquarters in Paris was also very impressive. So yeah, it was a challenge. Well, my question was precisely what's the next step, but you already told us. I think, and I will maybe advance myself on the closing takeaway, but as Narendra mentioned, and you also confirmed, one of the very important assets and achievements of this program and of both processes are to act positively on the mind of the local stakeholders and the local government, that they have to act collectively. Because after decades of thinking that there were competitors from an island to another one, they have to be aware that the competitors are maybe in Asia or maybe in the Gulf, in the Arabic Gulf. But they have to really act as a common region with different identity, through which you can really experience different culture in the same territory, than being, well, individually in their all markets. So I think that was clearly positioned bit with the transcultural program. All the stakeholders we had in the training were really aware of this, and of course, maybe the next step will be to implement this volunteer role to create connections between themselves. I have to say that from your presentation, we were also very impressed by the quantitative results, all these beneficiaries, all the impact of such a huge project. And once again, for having the opportunity to live it from inside through the training and the mentoring, I could say that in addition to the quantitative results, the qualitative and the human results and assets were very also impactful. No? So I will thank you again, Adrian. We'll have the opportunity to get back to the discussion at the closing point of this session. But talking about qualitative and testimonial, as Adrian mentioned, we have really the opportunity and the great pleasure and the honor to have with us one of the stakeholders, entrepreneur, I would say influencer as well, who was part of the training we did on creative tourism, who is Kenneth. So I will ask you to pronounce your surname, please, because I wouldn't like to. Kenneth Sinzial.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Carolina.
Okay.
That's
yeah.
yes,
Okay. So.
Real.
Okay. So thank you very much. And we're going to see through his testimonial how he's really changing things and moving forward in Guyana and in other territories of the Caribbean through community-based tourism. So we are the voice of the experts. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you to Transcultura and the Creative Tourism Network and UNESCO for this opportunity to share this panel with you guys. The leaders, the experts in the industry on creative tourism and tourism. It is really a pleasure to be here and to share my input on what we're doing in Guyana, the work we're doing in Guyana, but also some of the challenges and opportunities that we see regionally. One of the things that we always push for is for the inclusion of young people in the discussion so that we can help to create the future that we will inherit. So thank you again for including me. So far, it's been quite exciting listening to the presentations from all of you. I think a lot of what I was going to talk about has already been covered, so I'm not going to go back to that, but to talk a little bit more about some of the work that we are doing in Guyana in terms of creative tourism. Now, let's go back about 30 years ago. You think about tourism in the Caribbean, you think of the sun and sand tourism, the cruise tourism, and when you looked at Guyana, we didn't have any of that. What we have was, intact jungle. We had rich indigenous culture and heritage. So we, out of necessity, created tourism models that were sustainable. We didn't know it was called creative tourism, but we created tourism models that met all of what creative tourism was. And now fast forward to 2025, creative tourism, sustainable tourism, experiential travel. These are all new buzzwords in global trends in travel. So that necessity that really led us to create these types of tourism models in Guyana are things that we are now proud of. In 2019, for example, Guyana won 9 awards internationally for our sustainable experiential travel and community-based tourism models, which we are very proud of. But one of the things that I like to encourage is at a regional level for us to look inwards and to look towards our neighbors, look at what we're doing successfully and have those models replicated in other parts of the Caribbean. I like to share the example of Toka, a small community in Guyana, which is known for pottery. Now, pottery in that community was something that was on the decline. The knowledge of making pottery was on the decline to the point where we almost lost it completely. And one of the reasons for that was because it was something that was done in secrecy. It wasn't open to the public. It wasn't open to young people. So you had older persons, mature persons, elders in the community that would work on the sacred art of pottery in secrecy. But that actually led to a lot of the younger persons in the community not knowing how to continue this tradition. Working with organizations like Conservation International, local RDMOs like Visit Rupununi and the Guyana Tourism Authority, we were able to take that dying art form and transform it into a creative tourism product where visitors visit the community. They'll learn not just about how to make pottery in a sustainable way, but they'll learn about the impact that pottery has on an entire community. Everything from the reverence that is needed in the extraction of the clay to molding and making that clay, using just your hand and traditional tools that goes back century, but also not doing it in a way that is staged. But, one of the things I love most about that experience is that you're sitting under a mango tree in someone's backyard and you have the guests there, you have the elders there, you have school children there. Passers-by on the road will just stop in and join in the experience, and it becomes more of a communal sharing of culture. And I think that's the hallmark of really what it means to co-create and what it means to celebrate creative tourism and have that creative tourism models. Now, for young people in the creative industry in the Caribbean and in the region, there are a lot of challenges that we face. A lot of those were already highlighted by Mr. Narendra and Adrian. But one of the things that I've seen in the past decade working with communities and working with young people in the industry is that globalization and the influence of the Northern culture is really taken away from our own interest in our identity and our culture. You asked the question, Carolina, who else do we need to convince? And I really believe that we need to convince ourselves and our young people. We need to help us to understand that our culture and our identity is unique. It's sought after, and we can actually make money and preserve it and create sustainable economies out of it. Working with indigenous communities, most of the time you go in and we ask like, let us help you to create a tourism product. And the first thing off the bat is we don't have anything that the tourists would need. It's hard for us within the region to see the value in our own culture and in our identity and in our creativity. Recently, I met two young ladies, one from South Sudan and one from South Africa, and they are able to trace their lineage to the 17th and 20th generation. In the region, like for myself, I can only go as far as my grandparents. So what is my culture? You know, what does it mean to be Kenachir Dayal? And these are all questions that we are now asking. These are all questions that we are trying to find the answer to. There is, despite all of the challenges that we have, as we saw in the creative tourism workshop that was held in Grenada, despite all of the challenges that we are facing, there are young people in the region that are passionate about creativity and creative tourism, and we want to make a difference. Creativity generally in the region, I believe, is undervalued. It's still seen as something that is a hobby. Most young people in the creative industry cannot afford to have a sustainable livelihood just on creativity alone. So the focus isn't there, and there needs to be a massive shift in creating an environment where the creative industry and persons involved in the creative industry can sustain themselves with it. And I think that is really what creative tourism brings to the table. I like to call it the three S's. You know, what does tourism offer young artists and cultural professionals in the region? It offers a stage, it offers a syllabus, and most importantly, it offers a salary, you know? And these are all things that we really need to build upon. The challenges that are there when it comes to access to financing, we know that exists, and I'm happy to see all of the work that you guys are doing at Transcultura, but also at the CTO for in ensuring that we can have more access to financing, but also to have access to all of these amazing toolkits that we can use for the development of creative tourism products in the Caribbean. However, I do feel that there is a gap that exists. It's like all of the toolkits are here and the persons who are working on implementing are here, and we need to bridge that gap. I work in the industry, and for me, sometimes it's hard for me to find all of the opportunities. It's hard for me to find all of the toolkits. It's hard for me to find all of the funding opportunities that exist to support these initiatives. So we really need to work on bridging that gap. And to make it simple, what you find is a lot of how do I put it? a lot of enthusiasm to make a change, but lack of technical support for people working in the creative industry. In Guyana, for example, we have amazing indigenous artists. The work they produce are amazing. Their creativity is amazing. Their passion is there. But when it comes to accessing financing to create their own business models, that's lacking. There are small associations that are created, but then these associations become stagnated because the technical expertise does not exist. How does a young artist create a business model for themselves? How do they market themselves? How do they have access to the market? You know, these are all areas that we really need to address. Also, the infrastructure of it all. Most persons working in the creative industry do not have the financial resources to have a studio or to have an area that they can use to create a product that they can share with visitors that already exists within the region and within the country. So having communal spaces where you can have various art forms co-creating together, influencing creativity, but having a shared space that you can have tourists that are already in country visiting and learning and co-creating, I think would really change the dynamic and foster faster growth in this area. The use of technology is another thing that we really need to capitalize on. A lot of the young artists and young creatives don't capitalize on the digital, on social media and in the digital space because there is lacking in there's a lack of training in these areas. So more training on that, more support in that area is needed. I spoke a little bit on the collaborative approach. I think it is important first and foremost for creatives in the region to focus, not to focus, but to understand the importance of our creative identity, and for us to have those training and capacity building opportunities to help the creative person, to help the creative individual to go beyond just enthusiasm for it and to get to actually implementing. I want to end by just saying that sometimes when we think about it as young people, that you know, it seems far-fetched, it seems hard to get to, but I want to encourage us to start small and start now, you know, and also to decolonize our approach to development. Stop looking far away for solutions to the problems that we have. Look internally, look to ourselves, look to our neighbors, look at the artwork that's happening in Jamaica, look at all of the other amazing examples you all have shared on creative tourism products that are being developed in the Caribbean, and really build out on that, take the best practices and build out on that. And to reinforce that we are not competing with each other in the Caribbean. Our competition is not each other. Our competition is the rest of the world. And creative tourism really helps us to focus on the things that makes us unique. Each country in the region, it really helps us to focus on the things that that makes us unique, so we can tell the story of the Caribbean region from each of our unique perspectives, so that when a visitor comes, they can visit each one of the island and leave with a holistic understanding of our history and our culture told through creativity. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, dear Kenneth. We really needed to hear your voice, because it is the voice of the experts, the entrepreneur, and the youth generation. And actually, you are the one who will have to shape the future of the tourism in the Caribbean and also in the rest of the world. So that's very important, and your support for them and your vision is very essential for them as well, because we could say that they have the heritage of decades of tourism that was related to undervalued kind of job, that was not so very attractive, appealing for them to work in this tourism industry. So they really have, and it, of course, it takes a lot of efforts, but it is all, as we said, by the bottom up, to involve them, to engage them, to make them value that creative tourism, for instance, it is not about tourism. It is about sharing creative moment, creative exchanges with peers. Because at the end, we are all tourists around the world, so they have this opportunity. And I remember that we were very impressed by your presentation also within the training, in which you showed us how you brought all these small groups of travelers to these very authentic communities. And I think that, of course, this is one of the best ways to convince them, and we are still searching who we have to convince. So to convince also the new young generation. So thank you very much. And of course, welcome on board. We're going to go on in this direction with all of you. And this is very insightful. I had prepared some questions, but you already answered to all of them. So I'm very grateful for them. And well, by the way, as we are approaching the end of this enriching session, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all of the speakers for their very thoughtful contribution and this inspiring reflection. I think that we really had all the vision of this topic we wanted to explain today. And thank you very much for all your very illuminated apportation. As I said, as I mentioned before, before letting you and go back to your works and your projects, I would like to ask you, for our audience, maybe one takeaway on all this experience we have been sharing today. What would you recommend for at the level you prefer, for the private sector, for the governments, for the local communities? What would be maybe the tip or the advice you would like to share with us? I don't know who wants to start, maybe Narendra, or as you started. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Caroline. When I listened to all the presentations today, fantastic contributions from Anna, Adrian, and of course Kenneth. One of the common threads that went through all of them was collaboration, sharing, and Adrian spoke a lot about incubator models and so on as well. Those would be the three common threads throughout all three presentations. And of course, my closing line would be, if Sun See Sun brought visitors to the Caribbean, it is actually our music, culture, food, and creative side that will make them stay, return, and invest in our future. Creative tourism is really its empowerment, its resilience. I got that out of Kenneth's presentation just now. And of course, it's the bridge to truly a sustainable Caribbean, So that would be my one quick pitch and closing.
Thank you very much, dear Narendra. Other contribution, tips, takeaway from our speakers?
But I think I will join Narendra highlighting the importance of collaboration and networking on both levels. I think authorities need to collaborate because the resources, I think the resources are already in the region. There are a lot of cultural and creative assets. There are a lot of institutions, small ones, national ones, but even some of them regional. We have the UWI, for example, the regional hub created by the Transcultura program. But we need to put all of these resources to work together, and the authorities has this responsibility. But at the same time, I think that the entrepreneurs and the young professionals need to collaborate as well and push to authorities to respond to these challenges and these needs. And this in my point of view, this is one of the main way to advance for one of the MONDIACULT pillar, which is the economy of culture. We need to demonstrate that culture is a resource also to improve and to strengthen the economy of the region as a unique way to build sustainability and prosperity for the region.
Thank you very much, Adrian. And
Hi.
maybe just one last tip, or you can, of course, insist on what you already said.
Yes, I just want to say that, tourism will not save culture and creativity in our region. People will. All right. Tourism is simply the best tool that we have at our disposal to make it work. If it's community led, if it's fairly priced, if it's small enough to be real and to be human, but big enough to make a change in a young creative's life. There is a massive gap that exists with our history and our culture. A lot of the custodians of our culture and history are the aging generation, and that creates a gap in cultural continuity. Young people, I find, are not interested in sitting with their grandmother and their elders anymore and having a conversation. So at the very least, at the beginning, we need to start to document the knowledge that exists, document the dances, document those same Anansi stories, so that we can ensure the continuity of it, and we can use it to create tourism experiences that are genuine and authentic, because those knowledge are fastly going away. So we need to start capturing those and documenting those as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. Well, I thank you all for your very powerful closing thoughts. And actually, as I think that with all our good purpose, this is the right moment. And as Adrian mentioned, there is the next step coming. So this session will be certainly followed by other sessions, actions, projects. Thank you all. And of course, to follow to the next step, I would like to also engage our audience. Your engagement doesn't close just right in here, but we all of you who are listening to this and following this webinar, we warmly invite you to take part in the co-creation of the decalogue of the good practices of creative tourism. How will this happen? So you will have to follow us on the social media, the UNESCO 11 social media, the creative tourism networks, social media, through which you'll have the possibility to participate in a very simple survey. And from your inspirations, from your individual or professional experience, we really encourage you and we really ask you to contribute to this co-creative document that will share all the takeaways, all the do and don'ts we have to pursue in order to settle and to make this creative tourism development grow in the Caribbean, but also, as I said, that it is transferable in other parts of the world. So we are really hoping that this webinar will be a point of an inflection point as well for this sector. And of course, this will add to the all and very interesting and comprehensive work that it is done within the MONDIACULT Congress. I would like to thank you all, the whole team of Transcultura, Narendra, Kenneth, and all the audience. And I thank you and I wish you the best for the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.